This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. Sylvester Stallone used a lot of words that should wake people up. And if you're not familiar with everything that's going on in the world and you think that things are about to get better in America, think again. Because if you think you're actually red pill because you're a Republican and you go and vote and consent to be governed, you couldn't be further from actually being awake. In fact, you're just as asleep as the Democrats are, maybe even more, because you're actually believing government-created psyops and rabbit holes that they create so that you go down contrived rabbit holes that are fictitious, that they make up, that they feed to you, like we've seen with that list that came out, that flight log that the government handed everybody, thinking that they were finding truth on their own, that they were becoming detectives, that they were suddenly Sherlock Holmes, when the government was the one who was providing them the actual conspiracy and then all of the information around the conspiracy. Like, again, the flight logs. You are not red-pilled if you think Donald Trump is here to save America. And no, I'm not a Democrat. I am not a registered voter because I don't consent to be governed by these corporations. And I certainly do not align with Democratic ideologies. But here's the problem. All conservatives think about is the conservative party and Donald Trump, and they put their faith and hope in man, and they don't realize that they are about to actually embrace the New World Order, which I'll be covering over and over again, as I always have on this channel. So if you think you're awake, think again. Your vote doesn't count. The existence of the deep state, just because you acknowledge it exists, but you don't know who it is, you need to figure out who it is immediately. Because guess what? The Republicans and Donald Trump are aligning you with the actual deep state itself, which is modern day state of Israel. It is not biblical Israel. It is the modern day state of Israel, which they created for this exact moment in time. Everything that's about to go down which was started in 1948, everything that's about to go down now in 2025 was all done by design to herd Christians off of a cliff. And this, folks, is a part of the great deception that we're watching in front of us. Christians suddenly are completely under psychosis, now putting their faith in man instead of putting their faith in Christ. All these things we've heard about over the years, comparing Donald Trump to Jesus Christ, they literally are okay with it. They've convinced themselves that Donald Trump has been chosen by God. They listen to Donald Trump say that God chose him, in fact, calling himself a chosen one, and telling you that divine intervention saved Donald Trump, when they, of course, these people should be realizing that divine intervention didn't save Donald Trump. Donald Trump was never going to be assassinated in the first place. It was to continue to build up and martyr him into a mythical hero. And that's exactly what I'm about to play for you. Because if you didn't hear, Sylvester Stallone gave a speech about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump came out and hugged him. And boy, are there a lot of things to unravel in the speech that he gave. But one of the things, of course, is comparing Donald Trump to Jesus and comparing his character in Rocky to Jesus and saying that his character was the chosen one in Rocky and Donald Trump is the chosen one now. Even comparing him to a mythical character, because of course, what Donald Trump is a character. What you're watching is acting. Political theater isn't just a cliche, it's legit. These are actors playing politicians. They have no power whatsoever, other than to convince you that they're there to serve you. They prevent actual revolutions from occurring because you think that these people are doing things for you based on what the news tells you they're doing, which is exactly what they've done to build up Donald Trump over the last 4 years. Do you think they were so tone deaf when they were putting transgenders in power in the government and putting people in power based on their preference in the bedroom? You don't think they knew exactly what that was going to do in the minds of conservatives and make them beg and make them plead and make them do everything they could to get out and vote for Donald Trump to save the day, and then thinking that by having him back in power is going to save the day? They couldn't be more fooled. Donald Trump is bringing in the New World Order, the AI governance. That's what Elon Musk's role is. This is what Donald Trump's role is, to prevent an actual revolution. They control both sides. The deep state controls both sides. And here's Sly Stallone talking about that mythical character because, of course, Donald Trump is playing a character.
When I did Rocky, if you remember, the first image was a picture of Jesus, and it says Resurrection AC Club. I found a church that had been converted to a boxing ring. So the image pans down from Jesus onto Rocky being hit. And at that moment, he was a chosen person, and that's how I began the journey. Something was going to happen. This man was going to go through a metamorphosis and change lives, just like President Trump. We are in the presence of a really mythical character. I love mythology. And this individual does not exist on this planet. Nobody in the world could have pulled off what he pulled off, so I'm in awe. And I'll just say this, and I mean it. When George Washington defended his country, he had no idea that he was going to change the world. Because without him, you can imagine what the world would look like. Guess what? We got the second George Washington. Congratulations!
So the first thing you would think when you hear that is, again, Christians being upset with comparisons between Donald Trump and Jesus Christ. But they've become desensitized to it. Because a year or two ago, when we first started hearing the comparisons between Jesus Christ and Donald Trump, they took a step back and they said things like, wait, I don't worship Donald Trump. He's my president. I worship Jesus. Well, the lines have been blurred since then, if you haven't noticed. These are people who have portraits in their home of Jesus standing side by side with Donald Trump. We've seen the golden statue rolled out, like the golden calf in the Bible. This is idol worship 101. And these people just cannot see it because by design, the government did all this by design so that people would be putting their hope in a man, not starting a revolution on their own, and thinking that by casting a vote in a fake election, that change would come. Well, little do they know, change is about to come to all of them. Now, let's look at Sylvester Stallone for a second here, right? Sylvester Stallone, your quote-unquote alpha male, of course, aligned with the Republican Party. This is another way they've psychologically, socially engineered people into even looking at someone and knowing if someone's a Republican or a Democrat. This is their grasp, the grasp that they have on mind control, going back to Tavistock, going back to World War II, and the stuff they've implemented in America. It's frightening. It's frightening. And what's insane about the conservatives is that they think all the stuff the Democrats have been doing has been them being clueless, them being, bumbling fools, out of touch and tone deaf. And it couldn't be further from the truth. They did all the things that they did. The deep state created all of these characters like Biden and Kamala Harris by design to make the people beg for Donald Trump. And specifically the Christians, they went out of their way to align them with Donald Trump. It used to be that Christians wouldn't even care about voting because they cared about their faith. They didn't care about politics. But it was imperative for the deep state to get Christianity so deeply rooted in the Republican Party that, in fact, the churches, who, of course, are part of the government, that's what a 501c3 is, of course, they would come out and shame anybody that didn't vote for Trump, saying that if you didn't vote for Trump, you weren't voting for God. The hypnosis is so deep. I'm sure every single one of you who has followed my channel for years, you see it every day of your lives now on social media, when you interact with people. They can't get past the fact that their vote does not count. They don't understand what the American experiment is. It's a psychosis, and we're in it. And the only way to wake up is to come out of it and actually evaluate this thing that we see going on around us, which is, I call it this psychological operation, from an actual perspective of not being emotionally invested and watching how they bait you and work each side and what they're actually trying to get to, which is AI global governance, which is exactly what Trump and Musk's role is in all of this. They knew that the conservatives would eventually probably start an actual revolution if something wasn't done. And now they're going to put all their faith in Donald Trump. He's going to secure the border. We're going to have our digital ID. Our mark of the beast is it's really on the cusp of becoming a reality. So wait, let's take a look at Sly Stallone here, your alpha male, okay? Sly Stallone has been baited into this thing for a while now. You might remember when he was wearing his Q hat, and he was wearing a Q hat into the storm, he mentioned, of course. This is just baiting the people out there like actors do. I mean, these are actors, literally actors. Donald Trump is an actor, Sly Stallone is an actor, and most of these people don't realize that these people do their best acting when when they're not actually in something called a movie, because the news is faker than the actual movies that they're in. And remember that picture where he had the Q hat on? The person behind him happened to be reading a book called Every Last Secret, right? Because that's what this is. This is secret societies, members of secret societies, Freemasonry specifically, along with other branches of secret societies, the Eastern Star for the females. But this is secret societies working together, infiltrating both the Republican and Democratic Party to do what? Divide and conquer. I mean, it's the oldest motto of warfare in the book, divide and conquer, right? Yet these people can't see it going on around them. The only way you can divide and conquer is if you control both sides, and then divide both sides, and then conquer both sides. It's really simple. And if you haven't seen, of course, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, he made the comparison to Jesus. But if you don't know about Sly Stallone's mother, his mother was actually a witch. And he's even admitted to his mother being a witch. And Sly himself has done all the symbols that we always see all the other people in the club do. But remember, the conservatives are in such a psychosis now that when they see pictures like Sly Stallone doing the all-seeing eye, they'll defend Sly Stallone because Sly Stallone's on their team. Just like when they see Roseanne Barr tell everybody that she's a Trump supporter. So what do? They automatically don't care about quotes that she's given where she's openly said that she sold her soul to Satan, or done all-seeing eye symbols, or worn it on shirts, or shown you the Masonic symbols that we see all the time from these people like Robert De Niro. But when Sly Stallone does it or Roseanne does it, they just turn a blind eye because they can't see that they're in the psychosis too, that they're being worked by both sides of this. We've seen Sly Stallone doing the 666 sign. We've seen him holding up devil horns. I mean, if you haven't seen one of the awards when he won one of his first awards, okay, and he was on the red carpet and they were taking pictures of him holding up what looks like a golden globe, he's holding up the 666 sign right there, right? And what is the 666 sign? Oh, right. It's the symbol associated now with Maga, because all of this stuff is being revealed to you right in front of your face. You know, Maga as in Maga in the Satanic Church, a priest in the Satanic Church, Magus or Maga. I mean, this stuff is so easy to see. It's really just gotten to a point where it's that people don't want to see it. They don't want to believe it because they don't want to actually do anything to stop this New World Order from coming forward. They think that by going on a Tuesday every 4 years in November and writing something on a piece of paper that they're going to change the world. Why do they believe that? Because the government's gone out of their way to convince you of this. So you continue to let this monarchy rule over you, thinking that they don't rule over us. We pick them. We elect them. Thus, revolutions don't occur because there's a lot more of us than there are of them. And of course, the more you build up a martyr like Donald Trump, the deeper the psychosis goes with thinking they've tried to assassinate him. He's after the deep state, even though he didn't do anything to drain the swamp when he was in power last time. In fact, that's when free speech began to be censored in 2016, I could tell you from experience. And of course, like I've said a million times, there are so many things people should be able to see to realize that both parties work together, that you're not really in power with your vote. It's your consent to be governed. But the thing with Trump, the assassination attempts were so, just like every other deep state false flag, whether it's the events that happen at schools like the Hook or the assassination attempt itself. There are so many holes in the story. There's nothing that makes any sense. But when it plays to your side, like in the case of the conservatives thinking that, wow, they want him dead so bad they tried to kill him before the election. They don't realize the psychosis that they're in makes it so much harder to get out of because now it builds him up as a bigger hero. Oh my gosh, he must really be trying to do something here. Instead of saying to themselves, you know what? If they wanted him dead, couldn't they kill him? I mean, they've killed so many people throughout history. Couldn't they just literally give him a heart attack? We've heard the FBI, the CIA, we've heard of other heart attack weapons that they have. I mean, the type of technology that they have is out of our realm of comprehension, really. We only know about some of the stuff they tell us that they have, but they could use microwave frequencies that nobody could see to whack him if they wanted. Did you notice after Donald Trump was selected and put in power, how all this noise about election interference has died, how Biden invited him into the White House and they shook hands and he said, there's not going to be any protest here. We're perfectly fine with him becoming president again. Oh, after, a couple weeks ago, he called MAGA people garbage. I mean, you are being worked beyond belief. And if you can't see it at this point, you're doomed because it is about to get worse. And, for people out there to go, it's about to get worse because they're going to hear on the news that the border's secure. So they're going to say things are great. They're going to see that the price of eggs has gone down $1. And they're going to say things are great. And they're not going to realize what the new world order really is. And I'll get into deeper detail in more videos as I've done over the years about global governance and AI governance and how really it's the technology that is going to bring about global governance. It is the digital ID. It is global governance through artificial intelligence. And what is Elon Musk's role in all this? Oh, right. That's his role in all of it. So it's really incredible. Back to what the story's about. Sly Stallone, another agent, another, Q, which again, the government created the Q movement. Okay. It's incredible. These people who have jumped into Q, they find my channel. They're like, what do you think you know more than we know? Or you just can't, I don't claim to know any more than anyone else knows. But if you're actually in thinking that Q isn't created by the government, that there's some mysterious man out there who's leaking all this information to you and, the government hasn't gone in and tried to stop him as if he can get around the internet that they control and he can post this stuff and share it and he's still alive to talk about it. They don't know who he is. And the biggest thing about the Q stuff is that it actually stopped the awakening from happening because it kept everybody stuck in politics and making everybody think that there was a good guy and a bad guy and that one side was going to expose the actual deep state instead of everyone realizing that the two sides were working together from the get-go. The pictures of Trump and Hillary Clinton, all the pictures of Trump with all these celebrities who conveniently all turned on him, right? Because he wanted to take out the deep state. But the deep state just keeps bumbling around, slipping over their own feet, tripping over their own feet, not able to assassinate him, right? Conveniently. They still haven't, they tried to get him twice and they failed, right? You are being baited beyond belief if you actually believe the stuff the government is feeding to you. All the news is simulated and fake. The stuff they tell you going on is fake. I made it clear before the election, right? It's amazing that all these people go and vote and then both sides question the other side's news, right? Democrats question Fox News. Conservatives question all the Democrat news based on, who they root for, the propaganda they put out. It's dual propaganda, right? But then they take what the news tells them as fact when it comes to what's going on in wars, what's going on in Russia, what's going on as far as the election goes, right? They give you the outcome pretty quick. Did you guys know that when you go vote, it just gets sent right to CNN headquarters? They don't give you any breakdown at all. And the breakdown they give you is vague because they don't expect you to ask questions about who's tallying the votes. How come they, 4 years ago, there was a voter box and, we didn't, it took weeks and weeks. We're trying to figure out interference. And then this year, everything just conveniently just goes smoothly. Why? Because the news told you it went smooth. And even the Democrats who are saying the election is rigged, well, the news isn't mentioning it. So nobody out there knows what's going on, right? Because they control your perception of reality. So anyway, Sly Stallone is out there comparing Donald Trump to a mythical character. I mean, the words that come out of their mouths are just so, they're so deliberately used. Mythical character. And not to mention the fact that he compares him to George Washington, which is another thing you got to laugh about because the conservatives and the Democrats have these two different viewpoints that have been ingrained in them through propaganda, where the Democrats hate the history of America, right? Which makes the conservatives love the history of America more because they hate Democrats so much based on the insane stuff that they've brainwashed them into believing and wanting, like kids to castrate themselves, right? So the Democrats are like, let's get rid of statues. We don't want to celebrate the past. So the Republicans more so are like, let's celebrate the past. Let's wave our flag, right? And then you look at George Washington, a Freemason. And none of these people have a clue about George Washington being a Freemason. They have no idea. And they go, oh, what's the big deal, right? Because sooner or later, they'll probably reveal that Donald Trump is one, even though we all already know that he is one. I've exposed it before. It's very clear that he is one because you don't get in this position unless you are one. So the comparisons are very real, right? Donald Trump's a Freemason. George Washington is a proud Freemason. And by definition, of course, if you are a Freemason, you are guilty of treason because you take an oath to your brotherhood that you're in. And the oath to your brotherhood becomes a vow to your brotherhood. It becomes a commitment to your brotherhood. And that commitment is deeper rooted than your commitment to your wife and your children and your parents. These are people who put curses and hexes on their own families, okay? So when you're in Freemasonry or you're in the Eastern Star, Your loyalty in life is now to that over everything else. Okay? There, of course, it's revealed to them that Lucifer is the god of this world. That's the one that they worship, and thus they also believe that they are gods among us. But by definition, because of the vow that they take, the oath that they take, they are guilty of treason because they're supposed to be taking an oath to us as citizens, as civilians. But that oath is void because of the oath that they take to their secret societies. Thus, they're guilty of treason, including Donald Trump. So he's a mythical character, the chosen one again, and the desensitizing of Christians has gotten so bad that they could hear stuff like that and they cheer. Instead of saying that's blasphemous, it's disgusting, how in the world can we compare a man to Jesus? They're literally looking at him as a prophet, maybe in fact, the false prophet. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you as always and your families.